An on-camera monitor is one of those purchases that makes filmmaking so much easier. But is a $99 monitor good enough? That's where the Andycine T6 comes in. At just $99, it's one of the most affordable budget camera monitors out there. But as you know, you kind of get what you pay for, so is this thing good enough? In this video, I'm going to share my real-world experience using this monitor for my client work, and I'm going to share the true cost of going budget with a monitor like this. If you're new here, my name is Bruno Pozo. I'm a commercial filmmaker here in Bend, Oregon, and I make weekly videos on filmmaking technique, gear reviews, and how to make money with your camera. If any of that interests you, hit that like and subscribe. Now, onto the review. First off, Andycine did send me this monitor to review, but they have no input whatsoever on my views or this video. So all of these are my own thoughts, unfiltered. As I'll share in this video, there are a ton of features I really appreciate about the monitor, but there are two major flaws that might be a deal breaker for some. But first, let's go over why you'd want to get a budget monitor like this. Obviously, having a bigger screen than your camera monitor is super nice for filmmaking because you can check your framing more accurately and see if there's anything poking out at the edges of the frame. Things that you don't really want, like some sort of plant or someone's arm or anything like that that's sort of distracting in the frame. It's a lot harder to notice those things on a small camera monitor. The second reason to upgrade to a monitor is that you get extra exposure tools such as false color and zebras. These tools help you accurately judge exposure much better than just judging it on the back screen. And these monitors tend to be brighter than your LCD screen, but we'll cover that later on in this video. And so $99 to get all of those features is really tempting, but is it enough? Let's start with its outdoor visibility test. The monitor is fairly bright with a maximum brightness of 1600 nits. This is actually a little more than your smartphone, so in direct sunlight, you can see the image, but it does get hard. But the nice thing about this monitor is that it does come included with a sun hood. And so if you attach the sun hood and use that outdoors in a bright condition, you're actually able to comfortably see the screen. Now, oddly enough, in the month I've had this monitor, I attached the sun hood a few times. And recently, actually, right before I record this video, as I was taking it off, it actually peeled back some of the Velcro. And so that's sort of an issue I'm already finding, is that the Velcro strap that you use to attach the sun hood to the monitor isn't that durable, or at least if you want to be, you may want to be more careful than I was. But when it comes to the overall brightness and using it in bright conditions, this monitor is sufficient enough. I'd rather go for something that has 2000 nits and above, but in this case, with the sun hood and the fact that it's brighter than your camera LCD screen, I do think it's a nice upgrade. Next, I want to talk about some of the exposure and focus tools you get with this monitor, because that's what's really important when buying a monitor. Luckily, this monitor actually comes with all the basic exposure and monitoring tools you come to expect. So you do have false color, waveform, and zebras. My personal favorite way to expose is using false color, and unfortunately the zebras on this monitor only allow you to see what's overexposed. And so you're going to be putting your zebras somewhere between like 85 to 95%, and it'll only show those zebras when anything goes above those values. But the waveform and the histogram are both really useful and nice to have for checking your exposure. The focus peaking setting is also really nice. You get to choose 3 different colors for it: red, green, and blue, and you can adjust the intensity of it to see how much of your frame is actually in focus. This is extremely useful, especially if you're using manual focusing cinema lenses, but even for your autofocus lenses, if you want to turn off the autofocus and start focusing manual, having this focus peaking on your screen is super helpful. And then a few standout features from this monitor include some of your framing guides. So you have your safety margins, you have your aspect ratio markers, so you can actually overlay a 9:16 frame so you can check how your video would look when cropped into vertical format. You also have your typical 3x3 grids, but on this monitor, you can customize it from 2x2 all the way to 9x9. And what's really nice too is that these are also customizable by color. So if you're in a very white or dark scene and you have it set to a color that's kind of blending into that background, you can change it to something more visible, like those red, green, sometimes black, or even white. And lastly, my favorite feature of any monitor really is LUT support. So this monitor does come with some presets, but I never use the presets in camera monitors because they rarely really work with my camera. And so I'm uploading those manually. You just need a USB-C drive that you can connect that's formatted to FAT32. And then you can upload, I think it's 32 different LUT profiles onto this monitor. I don't really need that many, but that is something nice to have. But that leads me to one of the biggest downfalls of this camera monitor, and that's its color accuracy. I have noticed that when I use this monitor, the colors don't exactly match what I see on either my LCD screen or on my computer monitor. It shifts a lot more green than it actually is in real life, and that has been something that I find just a little bit annoying. I've even tried messing with the image adjustments and adjusting each color channel individually, but no matter what I do, it never quite balances out. If I pull more green away, suddenly it gets too blue and red, and then if I try to reduce those, the green sort of comes creeping back in. And so color accuracy is not a strength of this monitor, and if that's important to you, then this is not a good monitor for that. And the second issue, having no touchscreen capability on this monitor means you're having to navigate this whole menu using the buttons on the monitor. So all along the top of the monitor here, you have all the navigation buttons for the menu, going up and down, entering, exiting, and then your preset hotkey buttons, function 1 all the way to 3. The reason I don't really like using the buttons is, one, it makes going through the menu much slower. If I wanted to change a specific setting, I have to go through all the menu items by constantly hitting the button if it's on the bottom of that list. And so it just takes longer to change settings. Because you are pressing buttons on the screen, you're moving your camera a lot and it kind of just jiggles. I don't like that look. And if you happen to be doing that while recording, you're definitely gonna introduce movement into your frame. And pretty much all the other monitors I've ever used have always had touchscreens, so not having touchscreen feels like a step into the past, and I find really annoying. And if you do any sort of run and gun shooting, you know how important every single moment is, and so being slowed down by your monitor is definitely a big issue. But for $100, this monitor performs surprisingly well. In fact, you do get a lot of nice things. First off, you can power this using an MPF battery on the back, the USB-C port on the bottom, or a DC in barrel port on the side. And so you have a ton of options when it comes to powering this monitor. This monitor also has HDMI in and HDMI out. So if you want to send a feed from this monitor to another monitor like a director's monitor, you can do that with this monitor. That was a lot of monitor. You also have two mounting points, one on the bottom and one on the side for vertical shooting. And so if you do a lot of vertical shooting, it's nice to know that you have that option on this monitor because not every monitor has mounting options on the side. But is all of that enough to make this camera monitor worth it? If you're a beginner filmmaker looking to upgrade your kit and you're on a strict budget, then this is a decent option. You just have to put up with some of those downfalls, which we talked about, which are the color accuracy and the lack of touchscreen focus. But if you need accurate color monitoring, if you have clients looking over your shoulder at the monitor and seeing that weird shift, that can be really bad. Also, if you shoot outdoors a lot, then 1600 nits might not be enough. The sun hood definitely helps, but I would much rather go for something brighter like 2000 or 2100 nits. And of course, if touchscreen controls is important to you, then this monitor is absolutely not it. So the truth about budget monitors is this: they're far from perfect, but for the beginner filmmaker on a strict budget, they can be more than enough. But what do you think? Would you pick up this monitor for $100? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Huge shout out to Andycine for supporting this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.